Third time we're doing this, dudes.
They don't have to know.
They do have to know. It's like
The first time's perfect. They don't know.
just like they had to know you were late last week.
Yeah.
And this week 2 minutes late, so an improvement.
I was actually outside at 1 minute after.
Okay.
And then I texted you, and you were actually late because you weren't waiting for me.
All right.
At the door.
The joys of podcasting. So, I mean, I was telling you last week that one time I did a show on NYY recaps, and the way I deliver my show is I write a monologue during the game that outlines my thoughts on the game, my thoughts of the day, the stories of the day, and so forth. It takes about 10 minutes. I got to almost the end and just kind of gave a glance at the comments because the next section is I take comments, so I want to line up a couple. And all of the chats were, your mic is off, we can't hear you, L. And there was just like a stream of L. It was just like, I was like, oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. And so I had to start over. So today we're recording, and I thought we had 12 minutes of just pure gold. We covered LeBron and Jordan, which we'll get into.
It's probably the greatest 12 minutes of podcast ever.
Like, if I had heard that 12 minutes, even if I didn't like sports or know who Michael Jordan was, I would have immediately subscribed.
It's actually the missing 12 minutes of Watergate.
So we got 12 minutes of my mic being unplugged, and I just happened to notice that when I was talking, the light wasn't coming on, and so we're starting over. So this episode is about sports. We're talking sports in general. Obviously, the people who are listening to this, other than my mom and the family members who listen to this, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I think there's a few people who migrated over from my podcast, NYY Recaps, Yankees podcast, sports podcast. I am not super versed in all the sports. Like, since the 80s and 90s, I've been watching 162 Yankee games a year. I might miss a couple, I haven't missed one since 2017. And that doesn't leave a lot of time to be a fan of other sports. So I'm going to rely on you a lot for kind of the play-by-play on the best of all time. So we'll get to LeBron and Jordan later, but we were talking about William the Refrigerator Perry and how he had an awesome nickname.
Fridge.
So that just gave me an idea. What are the best sports nicknames that you can think of?
The best sports nicknames. Oh, man. George Gervin had a good one.
What's that?
He was the Iceman.
Ooh, I like that. Like a serial killer.
Yeah, but I mean, in the 70s, it was probably like, 'cause he's so cold.
Cool as ice.
Cool as ice.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
The big unit, Randy Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Big Hurt.
The Big Hurt, yeah.
Was Frank Thomas. Those were great.
Yeah. What was a Panda Bear? Is Sandoval?
Pablo Sandoval.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kung Fu Panda.
Kung Fu Panda.
That's what they call him.
That's what, right.
Baseball has a lot of good ones.
They do.
The Ryan Express.
Yeah.
Nolan Ryan.
That was a little.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yeah, Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Three-Finger Mordecai Brown.
Yes.
I guess I'll give you one guess as to why they called him Three-Finger Mordecai Brown.
Oh, man. Was it a girlfriend?
Obviously, you're not a golfer. So, no.
Ty the Racist Cobb.
Yeah, so he was a total piece of shit. Like, if you
he
learn
sucked.
about, he didn't suck as a baseball player, but he sucked as a human being for sure.
I mean, I feel like there probably were a lot of guys that time of era that sucked.
We hold a lot of people these days to standards that like just didn't exist back then, And I'm not saying that like
well, it wasn't right, but did they know that?
Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. So did Ben Franklin, and we still keep like statues up to these guys. Well, they're bringing them down in some places.
Well, some of them, yeah.
Yeah, but we just it's a different world. But all right, so let's talk again. This time maybe we'll have audio. Okay, I can confirm my audio is on.
Audio confirmed.
Jordan versus LeBron. So this is the typical discussion among basketball fans. You're much more of a basketball fan than I am. But I did watch a lot of Jordan's career. I pretty much stopped watching after Jordan retired, other than, I watched some of LeBron's years with the Heat because I was interested to see, like, what a super team could do. I watched their playoff runs. That was fun. I liked Ray Allen, some of those guys. But Jordan, 6 championships, retired twice. You said he didn't have a left-handed dribble. Is that?
Yeah. There's a guy out there. He does videos. I think his name is Mike Peak or something. And
Okay.
it's like he basically criticizes the 80s and 90s because, a lot of people criticize today's basketball like, oh, they're no good. They've got no skill. They've got no talent. Because, I don't know if every person that grows up in a certain era always thinks their era is the best. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't beat the 80s and 90s. I remember the 90s. I remember the Pat Riley Miami Heat games that were like 76-55 or something.
Those were fun.
They were wrestling matches. I mean, It wasn't really basketball, right? But, so this guy breaks it down, and he's got videos of Jordan where Jordan will go out of his way to not have to dribble left-handed. And I don't know why. Maybe he didn't have a left, but it obviously looks like he doesn't have a left. He was still dominated just going right all the time, but that takes away an entire half of the court when you can't go the opposite direction.
I think sports in general, the athletes have just gotten so much better. The training has gotten so much better. When I was, coming up as a high school player, a mid-80s fastball was really good. And nowadays, like, kids are throwing 95, it's 98 miles an hour.
There's so much science behind it, too. Like, everybody's got the sports science going, and it's great. I think, it prevents more injuries.
Yeah.
Right? It keeps kids healthier longer. The pitch count stuff, I mean, a lot of people hate that. They my pitchers used to throw 200 pitches. And it's like, and they didn't last. Well, Sandy Koufax did not last.
They also had this kind of mentality where you would throw it like 50-60% unless you had guys on base, and then you would amp it up. That's how guys would throw like back-to-back games, and, both ends of a doubleheader back in the day. As I got older, I started to kind of do that. I would pitch in some of those old man leagues, and I would, I would throw a lot of innings because I knew that, okay, this guy is an accountant. He has no idea what he's doing in the batter's box. If I just throw it over the plate, he's going to hit a ground ball somewhere. You know what I mean? Or pop it up somewhere. He's not going to take me deep. He might get a single, and if he does, I'll pump it up and I'll get the next guy. So, like, there's a little bit of mentality there. So LeBron comes up at 18. I think if you put prime LeBron and prime Jordan in a one-on-one match against each other, LeBron would probably dominate, in my opinion. He's just so much bigger and stronger.
I mean, I don't know if he'd dominate, because Jordan would definitely get his points. Because, think about the guys Jordan went against. Like, he definitely went against, like, the Craig Elos that were kind of, like, not very good.
I'm not familiar with Craig Elo.
He's pasty white guy.
Okay.
Jordan just always destroyed him. But then he went against guys like, like Charles Oakley for the Knicks, like, those are big guys.
Yeah.
And, he still did pretty well against guys like that. But, Jordan's just got, he's got skill and talent, and he could shoot mid-range jumpers. He had good body control in the air. But LeBron's just like a phenomenon,
he's
like
a tank
specimen. He came into the league. You think about like high school players that come into the league, like the Kobe Bryants, Tracy McGrady's. Like they were, McGrady was pretty good when he came in. He was okay. Kobe Bryant didn't really do much his first year. He was kind of like a bench player.
Right.
LeBron came in and instantly made an impact.
He was 20 points a game as a rookie.
Instantly, like in like you could look at him and like, man, that kid's a high schooler, because he was huge. He like in all muscle and like just could jump out of the gym. He was insane. And the basketball IQ for me is what I think really sets Jordan and LeBron apart, because where Jordan would just force up a shot to try to win the game most times, except for when he threw it to John Paxson one time, but LeBron tries to find the right play no matter what it is. If he doesn't get the glory, he doesn't care. He wants to win the game,
I do remember one of the things about LeBron coming up that I liked is all the passing. You know what I mean? Like, that was a part of his highlight reels, is the great passes, the no-look passes. Yep. I don't watch him much anymore because I just haven't watched a lot of basketball the last couple of years. But is he still like that? Is he still a guy who passes?
That's the other thing. So, I talked about how when he came into the league when he was 18 and just dominated. He's now 40.
Yeah.
And he's still averaging like 25 points a game. And like, he could carry the team if he needed to. He probably would break down. His body would like, just disintegrate. But he's still really, really good. And like, Vince Carter, when he played till 40, averaged maybe 8 points a game.
Yeah.
And Vince Carter was awesome.
Yeah.
Jordan, when he was like 40, he averaged maybe like, 19, 20 a game.
And Jordan retired twice. He had multiple years off. I will say this. So, Jordan, as a baseball player, what he did was kind of impressive.
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't bad.
He was 32 years old, hadn't played baseball since he was 18 in high school. He goes to double A, and he hit about 240, 250.
It's not bad.
With a few home runs. I think he hit
Steal
3
bases, too.
He stole 30 bases. That's kind of incredible.
Yeah. So have you heard the conspiracy theory behind why Jordan retired?
Something about gambling?
Yeah, so apparently he was a big gambler, and I guess he was gambling on things he shouldn't have been maybe, and the commissioner was like, David Stern, like, hey man, we're going to have to suspend you, but we're going to give you this opportunity to go out on your terms, retire for a couple of years, come back, and we won't tell anyone that you were suspended for gambling.
Doesn't that
protect your legacy?
Doesn't that defeat the purpose of suspension, though? It's like you're supposed to make an example out of somebody.
But he's like your star of your league. He is the face of the NBA.
Exactly. I feel like this is a conspiracy theory that I can't quite get on board. His dad had just been murdered.
That's another conspiracy theory that people kind of throw around.
Like maybe because of the gambling debts.
Because the gambling debts, maybe.
Well,
I mean, I don't know. Nobody really knows. Nobody's ever gonna know. But,
so they arrested the people for it.
Yeah.
And they basically said that it was a robbery. Like they didn't have any connection to like organized crime or gambling. One of them said
that's what I would say if I was connected to organized crime.
This is true, but they were like teenage dirtbags, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's possible it was totally random.
One of them testified, I think, that they saw this nice car. Like James Jordan was driving like a really nice car, and he had pulled over on the side of the road in the middle of the night to sleep because he had been driving, and he got drunk. He just, you pull over, have a couple of shots of whiskey to go to sleep or whatever, and they came upon him and woke him up, and he was groggy, and they saw the ring, and so they shot him, and that was it. And then they dumped him in the creek, and that was that. Like it's. This is one of those Occam's razor thing where the simplest solution is probably
most robberies though, like you don't just shoot somebody because you see something valuable, right?
Well, most, but
Yeah.
I mean, like this is a time in the 90s. There's no cell phone tracking. There's no like you could get away with just
You definitely could get away with it most of the time, yeah.
just middle of the night road. And that was one of the things I think the guy testified was that he didn't expect to shoot the guy. It was just like an impulsive thing, kids being idiots. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe necessarily that
Probably didn't happen that way, but it was interesting he retired at the top.
Yeah.
So you think about Jordan's mentality. Jordan's mentality is always like to be the best, to be the most competitive, to be the greatest. I can't see him stepping down at his top.
Well, I mean, you think about what he had just done the Olympics. He had won 3 straight championships. He was bigger than God, like in America. He was up there with like, the superstars of the world, like of all time.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson in his prime, Elvis, Madonna. Like he was up there. That has to be exhausting. Like that has to be, and
I feel like he eats it up though. Like he loves that.
You think?
Yeah, I think he loves it. Like he loves that whole like hero worship stuff. I mean, that's kind of, he lives for that, I think. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm not Jordan, obviously. He does share my birthday though.
Really?
Yeah.
Dream Team.
Dream Team.
That was a freaking sick. What was it? Let's go see if we can name all the members of the Dream Team. So obviously, Jordan and Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley. We know Isaiah Thomas wasn't on there.
No, it was not.
It was Pippen. Pippen was on there, right? Yeah. Trying to think.
John Stockton.
Karl Malone.
Barkley.
I thought I said Barkley.
You might have said Barkley.
I might have said.
Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
David Robinson.
Christian
Laettner.
Laettner was the college guy,
He was,
right?
and everybody was mad because it should have been Shaq.
Yeah.
But Laettner was better in college. But Shaq, and we all know Shaq was better.
Can we talk about Shaq coming up for a minute? Because that to me was a phenomenon. I remember when he was coming up with the Magic, I think we had just gone to Orlando to like Disney World or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I recall encountering like all the 32 jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into I want to say it was like a Reebok store or like a shoe store or whatever. And they had this life-size cutout of Shaq. And it had his shoe.
Oh my God.
And his shoe was like a size
massive.
20.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And this was right around the time he was tearing down backboards.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie Blue Chips?
Yeah, I've seen parts of it, and he's in that. Right,
Yeah,
for
he
sure.
plays like this, out of the bayou kind of recruit, and they like pay him like $50,000 to come to this college or
Is that
whatever.
the one where he becomes a genie?
No, no. What was that, Shazam or Kazam or something like
Kazam.
that? Kazam. Oh God, that was awful. Isn't that part
And
of
then he
why
raps, right?
Yeah, Shaq Fu.
Shaq
Shaq Fu
Fu?
was that, or maybe Shaq Fu was his video game. There was a time there when he went to L.A. Like
Yeah.
after he left
Yeah.
the Magic, where it was like he's clearly cashing in on like all that L.A. has to offer. I'm gonna dip my toes in this industry, this industry.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'll say this for Shaq. He sells these shoes that they sell them at Walmart really
Yeah.
cheap,
Really cheap shoes.
and
Yep.
they have helped thousands and millions or whatever of kids have
Yeah.
like footwear for basketball and sports and things like that at a reasonable cost, which
Yep.
so he deserves some
Stephon
props.
Marbury did something similar with his Starbury shoes.
Yeah.
I actually bought some of those one time. They are definitely $10 shoes. Do not. I tried to play basketball and then my feet were just like on fire after that. Like, these are. Yeah.
So I'm one of these people, like I'll spend $4,000 on an Apple Vision, but I'll spend $13 on a pair of sneakers. Like I can't bring myself to buy that type of stuff.
It's
Like
because you can't afford it because you just spent $4,000 on an Apple Vision.
that's a good point.
Like, are you eating?
No, I eat spaghetti.
Are you having enough food?
I eat spaghetti, and spaghetti's cheap.
Are you hungry?
Look, I don't go to like bars and drink and stuff like that. A lot of people go out and like they'll spend like a few $100 a week like going to bars, drinking. I've never been like that.
I don't gamble.
I don't gamble. I don't have a lot of like expensive. I don't travel. Like I know you travel. I never travel. So like I save up some money and I'll buy a toy or whatever. But one thing I've always wanted to do is like buy some J's, some Jordans. So a couple years ago, after I was wearing this really like shitty pair of like Walmart shoes for like a year and a half, and like it literally had a hole in them in the bottom. Like I could feel the earth beneath my feet, and so I went out and I bought a pair of J's. Dude, it was like walking on pillows.
Yeah, it's.
I have never worn more comfortable. I don't know why I stopped buying them, but I wore them for like a year or two, and I just threw them out like I don't know, probably 6 months ago. But I got to get another pair.
So you know what? Shoes are actually really good. Have you ever seen those shoes that are really lightweight and they're kind of like memory foam almost?
Crocs?
They're not Crocs. They're like Adidas sells them, Puma sells them. They have like a mesh.
No.
Those are really comfortable, and they're
try.
not super expensive. Like you can find them in like all the shoe stores. You can find them in Walmarts and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a pretty decent shoe.
So yeah, we've kind of moved from sports to shoes.
Let's go back to sports.
That's one of the things that I changed up the layout. I wanted it to be more of a natural thing where we didn't feel constrained to different topics or whatever.
Yeah,
it's also less work, to be honest with you.
It is a lot less work.
It was
It's
it was
supposed to be
eating up
fun.
some time. I didn't want to do any more work.
I don't blame you.
But all right, let's talk about sports. So obviously, I'm a huge baseball fan. All the people could listen to my Yankees podcast and hear me talk about all the modern Yankees and stuff like that. But non-Yankees favorite baseball players, I would say Griffey. Griffey had
Griffey was awesome.
Beautiful swing. Even
Junior.
Griffey Jr.
Senior wasn't bad.
I didn't see much of his career.
I didn't see much of it either, except when he played with his son. That was awesome.
That was cool. I remember they hit back-to-back home runs once. Obviously, Frank Thomas. We were just talking about, I think this might have been during the 12 minutes of the Watergate tapes. We were talking about how athletes are getting bigger. And Frank Thomas was one of those guys. His nickname was the Big Hurt. He was sort of that first class of humongous baseball player. Now you have Aaron Judge. You have O'Neal Cruz with the Pirates, who's 6'7". We talked about Ellie De La Cruz, who unbelievable speed, unbelievable arm. In his first game in the major leagues, I think he ran fastest home to third, threw the fastest ball across the infield, and had 120-mile-an-hour exit velocity on a home run.
Yeah.
Like, athletes these days are just different, which is why I think LeBron would beat Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, it's, though you think about it, though, and this is why it's kind of silly to compare athletes from different eras, because you have to think about who they played against, the rules, the science that's used to do the workouts and the training. Like if Jordan had the same access to what we have today, how good would he have been? Would he have developed a left hand and become the most dominant basketball player ever seen? Would he have the same drive because he wasn't Yeah, he might have come up and not have been like slighted like when he talked about it in his Hall of Fame speech. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you had to play on
Well, yeah, they would have
TV.
measured his like metrics as a JV.
There's a,
Guy.
you have a wingspan of like 18 feet and
Yeah,
your
and you
hands
can.
the size of like,
Yeah,
yeah, you're definitely gonna get some training here, guy.
yeah. You can. Your vertical is like ridiculous. Yeah, I can see how. You know, you got a coach that's really not paying attention or whatever, or just kind of like maybe somebody who's more focused on ability
Yeah.
rather than like tools.
Yeah, win now versus like, oh, do you have potential?
Right.
I mean, because high school coaches, I mean, honestly, they just want to win now. They don't really
Yeah.
care about developing you necessarily.
Right.
Most of them don't. Some of them probably do. That's part of the job, I think, is developing. But if you're thinking about win now, you're not thinking about where they're going to go to college, if they're going to go to college, that sort of thing. Most of the time.
Yeah. So other than that, favorite athletes. Let's go through some of ours. So Dan Marino for me. I always just loved the way he threw the football. He had the worst mechanics in the NFL, and just quick release and just threw bullets. Elway, Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly, I always liked his personality. He's just very fast. He did everything fast. He worked in the no huddle, and man, you see him give an interview, and he just doesn't stop. He doesn't come up for air.
That's the cocaine.
Yeah, oh yeah. Was he a cokehead?
I don't know. I'm not saying
Jim
he was.
Kelly gonna sue.
Just saying it was the 80s. It was the 80s.
The dudes get sued.
You had
is the
Lawrence
next
Taylor
episode.
in the league.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I mean, honestly, like with Lawrence Taylor in the league, I'm sure some of those guys got contact buzzes.
Yeah. Okay. Who else? Who's some of your favorite athletes of all time to watch? And
Jordan was definitely one of them. When I was a kid growing up, loved watching Jordan. I used to really like Darryl Strawberry.
I love Strawberry. He had a great swing. I love he had a hitch in the swing, so I can do a great Darryl Strawberry. So I'll just do it from the side. He had a nice big round circles with the bat, and then as the pitch was coming in, he big hitch where he cocked the bat forward, and then total bottom hand and a perfect uppercut.
He had a big leg kick too.
Yeah, he had a leg kick. Like so, as he was doing his front, the cock of the wrist, that's when the leg kick would happen, and then let it go with that front hand. Man, what a beautiful swing!
In high school, I had one of the ugliest Darryl Strawberry jackets ever created. So I don't know if you remember this, but Darryl Strawberry ended up with the Dodgers at some point.
Yeah, for like a month.
Yeah, so this jacket has a giant picture, a photograph on the back of Darryl Strawberry. It is. I'll have to bring it next time. It is hideous.
You still have it?
I still have it.
That's pretty good.
Why would I get rid of this jacket? It is so hideous.
I still have a random Bengals jacket that my brother bought in like middle school.
Yeah.
And he never wore it, and then I borrowed it one day and never gave it back. And it's kind of dope. It's like it's white, and it's got the sleeves are the Bengal
it's pretty sweet.
And like I don't know why we have a Bengals jacket. I think it was just because it was a cool jacket.
Ricky Henderson.
Oh God, Ricky. He's born on Christmas, so every year on Facebook, I always post instead of Merry Christmas while everybody's posting Merry Christmas. I always post the same picture of Ricky Henderson, and say Happy Birthday to Ricky Henderson, the greatest of all time.
He was great. He was awesome. Loved watching him.
I loved when he stole third base for the record. It was against the Yankees, and he Lou Brock, whose record he broke, was in the stands. And he picks up the base and he holds it up and he says, "Today I am the greatest of all time." He doesn't like thank Lou Brock or anything. He's like I'm better than you.
he didn't say I. He said Ricky is the greatest of all time because he always spoke in third person.
Yeah,
that was a pretty.
Bo
he was a pretty
Jackson.
Bo Jackson.
God, he was great. I mean, I remember watching from a hotel room. I want to say maybe in Virginia, that play that he made the catch and ran up the outfield wall like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that before or since.
The throw where he guns down Harold Reynolds.
Harold Reynolds from the left field corner. And these days, like with the StatCast metrics, I mean, I think he would be off the charts in everything. His first hit was a routine ground ball to second base. It was just a little two-hopper to second base that everybody gets thrown out on by 30 feet, and he beat it out. He was just so he was so fast. And then the power, he hit a home run at Yankee Stadium to right field, the opposite way. I think it was his third home run of the game. And he hit it to a place where left-handed pull hitters didn't even hit it. Like the back of the right field bleachers, opposite field.
Yeah.
Unreal physical. I don't even know how he did it.
He was one of those players that was way ahead of his time. And honestly, he was playing football, right? So he was a football player, but he wanted to play baseball. So you look at a guy like Aaron Judge, who's huge.
6'7", 290.
He probably would have played football in a previous era, right? He probably would have been a tight end or like a defensive end somewhere. But
Yeah.
Baseball drew him there. He pays well. His body stays well longer, right?
Yeah. I think he was a tight end in high school, and I think he just chose baseball. We talked a little bit about this again during the missing 12 minutes. He's a center fielder. You just don't see 6'7" center fielders. I mean, he came up as a right fielder, but the year that he hit 62 home runs, he was the starting center fielder for most of the year. It was his healthiest season, and he's starting in center field this year at least until their top prospect kid named Jason Dominguez comes back mid-season. So, yeah, I mean,
The Walls fear him.
they do. Well, not last year they didn't. Last year he ran into a wall.
That's because he just got his toe.
Yeah.
The toe is his weak spot. It's like his Achilles heel.
It's like the Achilles. That's funny. That's funny. So, all right. Other sports. What other sports what do you like to watch in the Olympics?
In the Olympics, oh man, well, basketball, of course. So we talked about the Dream Team,
Yeah.
right? I like to watch the gymnastics sometimes.
I like to watch the running.
The running,
Like,
yeah.
remember Michael Johnson?
Yeah.
That guy was phenomenal. Usain Bolt.
Most of those guys, usually you find out later, they were like on like
Every steroid.
possible drug ever.
Which is why I don't concern myself with it,
Yeah.
because if everybody's doing it, it's like the late 90s baseball. It's like, all right, well, the hitters were taking steroids. Well, so was Roger Clemens, the pitchers. So it's like everybody was on steroids.
Yeah.
The guys who weren't taking steroids, they probably didn't get to that like next level. But I mean, like the roided guys versus the roided guys, it's like, all right, this is fun. Why not?
Needle ball.
Yeah, needle ball. They should make it legal. Trying to think of what other sports did I watch a lot. So I was more of a football fan in the 90s. Like I was a Dolphins fan, but my dad was a Raiders fan, Jeff Hostetler and all that.
Oh, yeah, God.
And then my uncle was a Bills fan, Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas.
Yeah, those are good teams. They should have won a Super Bowl at some point.
I have a
Scott Norwood.
Oh, Norwood, yeah, he just missed that. Well, so I just watched a documentary about that called The Four Falls of Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't finished it. I'm like a third of the way through. I've been watching it on my I call it my magic hat. And it's, and a few things about that Scott Norwood field goal miss to lose the Super Bowl. He had gone 1 for 5 on field goals over 40 yards that year on grass, which today itself
He wouldn't be in
the league.
He wouldn't be in the league.
Like, you got to be able to hit like 99 out of 100 from 50 yards.
Kickers had gotten so good,
It's insane.
they had to shrink the goalposts.
Yeah, yeah,
Like they're now we got to make these smaller, man. This is too easy.
yeah. So nowadays, he wouldn't have even been in the league, and it was people think about how it went right or whatever, it missed right, but he had been kicking prior to the game, and they were all hooking left. And what happened was, with a chance to win the Super Bowl, he had a little bit of extra adrenaline in it, so he kicked it a little bit harder, and it just didn't hook.
Yeah.
It just stayed true, and so it didn't really like sail right. It was actually kind of a straight kick.
Straight, yeah.
He just aimed it in the wrong spot.
That's what I'd say if I blew the kicking.
Yeah, Ray Finkel.
I actually kicked it too well.
Yeah.
It was too good of a kick.
Laces out. So we talked a little bit. This might have been, I've lost track now whether or not this was during the
Missing 12
minutes, but we talked a little bit about golf, like how it's a perfect
Yeah,
background.
it's a good background for me. I mean, some people love watching it. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, but for me, it's like I can't. Baseball's kind of like that for me too. I don't watch it like stare at it. Like I kind of have it on the background, and
Yeah.
because it's a slow moving game. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
always have action going on.
I like golf, but I would rather watch the highlights than what, because golf itself just takes forever.
It does.
But I did watch most of Tiger Woods winning the Masters in 97, 98, whatever it was. And I watched the last one, like his final day when he won his most recent Masters. Both impressive feats. the porn star stuff, obviously more impressive. The amount maybe not. Maybe not.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
I actually like watching tennis.
Tennis is fun.
Tennis actually isn't bad to watch.
What? So Andre Agassi, Pete Sampras, that's my generation of tennis.
Yeah, I don't even know who the new generation is for the most part. I think there's like a bunch of new names every year, right? Like I just don't follow it close enough. But I remember Pete Sampras,
Yeah.
Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal. That's kind of like where I watched it a bit. Was during that era. Was that Djokovic?
Yeah.
The big guy that has a huge serve, whatever.
I like women's tennis. Like
Yeah,
the Williams sisters are great.
Yeah.
Remember when somebody stabbed Monica Seles?
I do remember that.
That was crazy.
That was insane.
You don't see many stabbings in sports anymore.
No, you don't. I mean, you didn't see it before that either.
Well, I'm just saying, it's just it's a lost art.
Are you sad that there's not more
No,
stabbings?
no, I mean, I obviously don't want people to be stabbed, but I thought it was entertaining.
I mean, some people want it. Some people want that. Like it's like Roman gladiators, you know.
Dude, we have got to bring back like gladiators. Like maybe if there's a way to make it safe.
American gladiators.
Well, American Gladiators was cool, but it felt I don't know. It felt kind of campy.
It does not age well. I watched it recently. It does not age well.
Right. I want to see actual feats of human strength, of like let's
World's Strongest Man?
Well, let's see somebody compete in like a weightlifting thing, but like let's see how far they can drag this truck or something.
They do that. Wait, this World's Strongest Man.
But then immediately swim like a mile.
Oh, okay.
And then get on a bike and ride a mile.
So World's Strongest Triathlete.
Yeah, and not just that, like, and then go hit like a baseball, and then like take a hockey shot, and make a 3-pointer. Like, I want to see them do everything. I want to see the most well-rounded.
Bo Jackson could do that.
Right. Well, maybe not anymore, but
Bo knows.
He probably could. I want to see the most well-rounded athletes that humanity has to offer.
Did you ever read anything about Jim Thorpe?
No.
So Jim Thorpe was like in the 20s-ish era. Native American guy, like one of the greatest athletes of all time, could do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Was in the Olympics for like track and field, played football, did all this stuff, right? So worth checking out. And then American Gladiators is actually a documentary about the American Gladiators that you should check out as well.
Trying to think, what other sports topics didn't we cover during the, or did we cover during the 12 minutes that we haven't gotten to?
That's all right. We don't have to think about what we didn't cover. Those moments, you can't recreate greatness.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
all right. So, modern athletes.
Yeah.
Who are your like top if you're flipping through and you see
Right.
their game on or another guy, boxing. We got to talk about boxing.
Boxing.
Tyson, Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, some of my favorites. Did you ever watch boxing?
I used to watch some Tyson, and like I remember thinking how great he was, and then like he just went completely south.
Yeah.
And like he never was, I guess, a technical boxer. Like he was never great technically. He was just powerful and fast.
I would push back on that. When he had Customato as his trainer, before Customato died, he was pretty evasive, and he was actually one of the more technical boxers.
Okay.
Like he would do different combinations and different footwork moves and things like that. After Customato died, it became more about his handlers making money.
Yeah.
And not really training, and he got caught up in his own hype of being the best in the world. He obviously got reckless. He raped a woman, whatever. But he became a headhunter, and he stopped with his own head movement. Like if you watch his peekaboo style when he first came up, hands or gloves right in front of his mouth, and constantly moving his head. But when Customato died, probably the last, I'd say his 34th through 37th fights, before he lost to Buster Douglas in his 38th fight. He would just kind of, it was more like Drago chasing Rocky around the ring, where he just looking for an opening. And so he was taking more jabs and things like that. And that's what Buster Douglas did. Buster Douglas he would wait for Tyson to kind of get in close and set up his big shots. And he would just 2 pumps of the jab and step back.
He must have been playing a lot of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yes. He was. And
he's kept hitting those stars, man.
Yeah. So he took a couple of steps, a couple of jabs and step back, and Tyson couldn't do anything about it. Tyson would then respond with like a big like cut, and Buster would just eat it. And by like the 6th round, his eye was really swollen, and his corner hadn't prepared any of like the necessary like medical stuff. So instead of having a compress, it's like a metal thing that you put that fighters use to like flatten out swelling. They had a condom filled with ice water, and put it on his.
Oh, I have one too.
Yeah. Who doesn't have their condom filled with ice water? And so they were just really unprepared. He didn't know what to do. And then after he lost that aura of invincibility, I feel like he didn't care. I feel like he was like, I just want to get paid now.
Probably lost some confidence.
Yeah,
right?
probably. And then he only fought 1 or 2 more fights after that, and before he went to prison. And then when he got out of prison, it was definitely about the money. He fought Peter McNeely in his first fight back. That was 90 seconds. I remember we bought that on pay-per-view, and I was making iced tea as the fight was beginning. So I missed about 45 seconds of the fight. So I saw 45 seconds, and I had to mow the lawn for like 3 weeks to get enough money for my dad to get us the fight. And then he fought, Buster Mathis and just a couple other, I guess they call them like tin can fighters that just get dented easily.
Yeah.
And then Holyfield beat him. And after that, he bit his ear off, and then he got his ass kicked by Lennox Lewis. But he spiraled as he aged, and he became less of a technical fighter, but he always had power.
Yeah.
I do think that the fight that he had with Roy Jones a couple years ago on pay-per-view, just like an exhibition, was kind of fun. Like seeing somebody in their late 60s or late 50s get in that kind of shape and do that kind of boxing was fun.
Would you like to see Jake Paul fight Mike Tyson?
I would watch that. I would think
because he would get destroyed.
I think Tyson would kill him.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't think Tyson would.
That's the only reason I'd watch.
Even as a 60-year-old, I think Tyson would put serious damage on him.
I think so.
Yeah.
As a man, he's got nothing left to lose.
Right. If he dies,
he dies.
I recently watched. That's another one I watched on the Magic Hat. I watched Rocky IV, one of my all-time favorites, and I watched the new director's cut from Stallone, and it's one of the worst edited movies you've ever seen. They did make the fights better, like the fight between Apollo Creed and Drago, and then Rocky and Drago are both better. But they edited like all these random things out. They got rid of the robot, which was my favorite. Happy birthday, Polly. They got rid of the robot, but they screwed that movie up, man.
So that's a good segue into sports movies, right?
Yeah, we should talk about sports movies. What top sports movie? What's your number one?
Rocky obviously is one of those top ones, right? So I made a list.
I preferred Grudge List, which we saw with Pacino and De Niro fighting, or Rocky. No, what's his name? Stallone and De Niro fighting at 60 years old with their big saggy man breasts, man boobs, moobs.
All right. So Waterboy is always a classic.
Foosball listed devil. Yeah, that was a great one.
Like that's probably one of Adam Sandler's best comedies.
I like when they have actual ESPN personalities, like doing highlight shows in a fake movie. Like they had Dan Patrick.
Like in Dodgeball?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
On the Ocho.
What was the one? Basketball. Where they had Tim McCarvey. It certainly seems to be raining shit on the... Yeah, it's fun. No, the Waterboy was fantastic. The... what was the guy's name? You Can Do It, that guy.
Oh, the Rob Schneider guy?
Rob Schneider, yeah. He's great.
Yeah, and then another one that he does that's really good is Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore is probably, I'd put it in my pantheon of sports movies, of movies in general.
It's probably the greatest golf movie ever made.
Yeah, that and Tin Cup. You ever seen Tin Cup?
Yes.
With Kevin Costner and Rene Russo. Happy Gilmore, where he's like... you're gonna die, clown! And he starts like beating the shit out of the fake clown.
The fight with Bob Barker.
The fight with Bob Barker was amazing. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, how about I just go? He said it was Shooter McGavin said something like, "Stay away or you'll pay." And he's like, "How about I just go eat some hay? I can lay by the bay and make things out of clay. I just may.
I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast." Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one. I didn't make a list today. I'm very
I
unprepared.
got a list. All right. Teen Wolf.
Oh my God, Teen Wolf is like the greatest movie.
It's so good.
Oh my God, I'm gonna watch that today. The fact that you reminded me of that.
Do
So
you remember the cartoon?
I didn't see the cartoon. I never watched
Like
the
in the
cartoon.
80s, they had a Teen Wolf cartoon. It was great.
Michael J. Fox the voice?
I don't think he was. I think it was like the Scott Baio era or something.
Did you know that there was a Teen Wolf 2?
Yes.
With
It's TOO.
TOO with Jason Bateman.
Scott Baio was in it, wasn't he?
I don't know Scott Baio. Jason Bateman was the main
okay,
guy.
okay.
Jason Bateman was the main. So Teen Wolf, when he goes into the I guess it's the liquor store. He's like, I'd like a keg of beer, and his eyes get yellow, and the guy pees himself. That was awesome. Part 2, it was weird. It was the same coach. Like he went from being a high school basketball coach to a college boxing coach for some reason.
Yeah.
And apparently there's like a MTV show. I've never watched it, but it's got Orny Adams, who's one of my favorite comedians, and he plays Coach Finstock. But yeah, Teen Wolf. Wow, great. Oh man, that made this whole
there, man.
That made this whole podcast worth it.
White Man Can't Jump.
Oh, that's a great one. Fools that begin with Q. Quiche.
Do you know they remade it with like Jack Harlow or something?
They remade that movie?
Yeah, they did.
I had no idea they remade that.
I haven't seen it.
I didn't know
I
that
don't
was
think I want to see it. It's like for me, like if something's great already, don't do it again.
Like I don't know if I would rewatch a Jaws reboot. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's the perfect movie.
They're rebooting The Crow now.
I never saw The Crow, the original.
Yeah, I didn't either, but I just it's like I don't know. Some things just should be left untouched. Slapshot.
Never saw it, but Paul Newman.
Yeah,
familiar with it. Family was a big fan of that. Spoof movies in general, I think, are terrific.
Usually pretty solid. Hot Shots. I loved Hot Shots.
Hot Shots was great. What was the one we watched in New York? Naked Gun. We watched actually Naked Gun 2.5 or something.
Yeah, Naked Gun 2.5. Those were all good. Hoosiers.
Hoosiers, another one. So I remember seeing it when I was a kid, but I don't remember if it was the true story of Bobby Knight and that team, or was it kind of based on like 8 Mile version of?
I don't even think it was Bobby Knight. I think it was just like a different
generic.
I think it's a high school thing, right? Like
so Indiana Hoosiers,
not the college. It was a high school.
Was it?
It's high school basketball, and like a story about a high school basketball team that was overcoming the odds. That type of thing.
I don't know why I thought it was based on.
Because it's the Indiana Hoosiers.
I that's one of those weird things that your brain does. Because I saw it when I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Oh yeah.
And so in my brain it was like, oh yeah, it connected Hoosiers with Bobby Knight. Okay.
Bad News Bears.
That's a good one. Are you talking about the original Bad News Bears?
The original.
Or I thought the new one with Billy Bob Thornton was actually pretty funny.
Oh yeah.
But the original classic, there was like 3 of them. There was like Breaking Training and Bad News Bears in Japan or something like that.
Yeah, they made a bunch
that
of
were
sequels.
just awful.
Yeah.
But Chico's bail bonds. I would make that joke whenever we had crummy uniforms. I'd be like, oh, where's the Chico bail bonds patch?
So in Bad News Bears, Jackie Earl Haley's in that movie.
Yeah.
And he plays Rorschach in Watchmen.
He's also Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Oh, there we go. That makes sense. Baseball movies, of course. Major League, Bull Durham, Field of Dreams.
I think that Bull Durham is overrated. A lot of people love Bull Durham. I always thought that the acting, like Tim Robbins' pitching motion, was just so over the top and cartoonish that it takes
me more sidearm than over the top.
It
3/4 angle.
No, I just meant like it was cartoonish. Like I just it takes me out of it. I much prefer something like The Scout.
Yeah.
You know, Little Big League.
The Rookie.
The Rookie was good. Yeah. Major League was obviously my number one. That's my favorite baseball movie of all time.
Moneyball is another good baseball movie.
Moneyball is underrated. We saw that in theaters.
Really good, yeah.
And, initially I didn't love it, like when I first saw it, because I had just read the book. I was like, man, they left out a lot of the really good logarithms. And
I think that would have been like hard to translate to screen.
I'm clearly kidding. I was like,
oh yeah.
Like,
sorry.
They left out my favorite algebra from that. I wanted them to get more into VORP. Which became WAR. So it used to be value above replacement player. Now it's wins above replacement.
Yeah. A lot of people hate that stat.
Yeah, it's hard to calculate. I don't like anything that you can't calculate on the proverbial back of a napkin.
Yeah.
Like if the stat changes, so there's Fangraphs and there's Baseball Reference WAR. So there's 2 different sites, and they have a different WAR stat. And to me, that just means it's not a stat. It's like a statistic is something you can measure. Like, it's always the same. Like, if I go 3 for 10, my batting average is 300. That's a stat. But when you're factoring in like range and park value and all this stuff, like, to me, it becomes a little bit like in the gray area. So I'm not a huge fan of WAR, but I like the traditional stats. I think runs are important. Like, I want somebody who's going to get on base and find a way to score.
Yeah, there's so much. So I think what they were trying to do is take away the whole, I need other people to help me score thing, right? Because if you have a lot of runs, it doesn't mean that you're a good player.
Well, it means you're on base a lot. It means you're running the base as well.
Maybe you got hit by a pitch 100 times.
Maybe. That's good. Like, you're getting on base. Like, right? I feel like you can't score runs without getting on base.
Yeah.
And being a good base runner. I like just the cumulative stat of hits. Yeah. Like, somebody who gets a lot of hits. Even if they, don't walk a lot. I'll just give you the pitching perspective. I tell this to the people on my podcast all the time. If I'm pitching and I walk somebody, right? I feel like, okay, that's on me. I can get the next guy. I'll throw better pitches or whatever. If I give up a hard line drive, it's like, oh man, they're on me. Like, am I tipping my pitches? Like, do I just not have good stuff today? If I give up a couple of hard line drives, it brings in that mental bit of doubt. But if I walk somebody, I feel like I have control over that. It's like, okay, I just need to make better pitches, right?
Unless you walk multiple people.
Yeah, if you start walking,
do I have the yips?
Yeah, then you're not going to be in the game very long. But I would much rather walk somebody as a pitcher than give up a hit. You can't advance bases on a walk. Like, you can't go from first to third on a walk. So, everybody advances one base. All right, what else?
I think with WAR, I think it's more useful for people trying to evaluate players for their team, as opposed to using it as a stat to see who's greater.
The Yankees last year had their highest projected WAR value in Major League Baseball entering the season, and they missed the playoffs. They were 82 and 80. So, I mean, it's a stat that, like all other stats, needs to be taken with a grain of salt.
Another one that's really unpopular, and it's not baseball related. It's like more hockey, basketball. It's plus minus.
Yeah.
Like how many points do you allow on the when you're on the court or on the ice?
Right.
And I think that's a bad one too, because it's like you don't have control over the other four or 5 or 6 guys, right?
And that's why you're seeing more teams leaning into metrics like exit velocity as a hitter, spin rate as a pitcher, like things that are correlated with success. Like, not necessarily a 100% indicator, but if you can get enough things that are correlated with success, then your odds the guy's going to be successful.
Yeah. I mean, if you're hitting like 120-mile line drives right at people,
right,
like that probably means you're still a really good hitter. It's just you're having some bad luck.
But one thing just sticking on this for a second, one thing I hate about the exit velocity stats is they don't factor in the misses. Like, Joey Gallo has some of the highest exit velocity in baseball, but he misses 9 times out of 10 on swings. I feel like that should be. It's like if I only got graded on the tests that I took, but I skipped 9 tests.
Yeah.
It's like you can't pass the class. You can't, like, I took one test and I got an A, but I didn't show up for the other 5 tests. Like, I should fail the course, right?
Yeah. I feel like people are ignoring batting average, I think, too much now.
Yeah.
Like, the batting averages, I feel like, are way down.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like...
it makes it hard to watch the game,
It does. Like, you get your Gallos and your Kyle Schwarbers. Yeah, they're going to hit it a mile when they do get a hold of one. But that's going to happen once every, 1 out of 10 times.
I just realized I look kind of jacked today.
You are jacked.
I need to lose the gut, man. I've been sitting around all winter eating spaghetti.
Spaghetti's delicious. Munich.
So Munich is one of those ones that's on my list of I need to watch it. I watched the first probably half an hour a few times, and I always put it on too late at night. I'm like, this is good. I should come back and finish it.
Yeah.
And I just never have.
That's one of those movies. We talked about movies like this before, where you watch it once, you can't watch it again, man. I can't watch that one again.
It's
tough.
There's a movie called Prefontaine that kind of takes place around that. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Jared Leto. It's about a runner named Steve Prefontaine, who he was one of the best distance runners ever, and he was in the '72 Olympics when that happened. And there's a whole scene where it talks about that's one of those things where it's just so sad and so I don't even like to learn about it.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's just like, it's like
dark
when I hear
time.
it's like when I hear about like all the shit in Israel and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
there are certain things that I just have to tune out. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be in a bad mood.
Yeah. League of Their Own.
My wife loves it. I never loved it.
I've always liked it. It's fun.
I mean, yeah, it's all right. To me, like
Why do you hate women?
I hate Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna. Like I just find them annoying.
They are annoying, but they're supposed to be annoying
Yeah.
in this movie. It's
Gina
like,
Davis is great.
Yeah.
Got
Tom Hanks is great.
Yeah. My favorite part of that movie is when Tom Hanks pees, and it's like they're like timing. It's like he pees for like 2 minutes straight in the movie. It's the longest pee scene ever. And then there's when they're going through the advertisement for all the different women, like Gina Davis, great catcher, and then so and so, great pitcher, yeah. And then they're like Marla, and it's like from 9 miles away. What a hitter!
So I don't know if you watch any kung fu movies. You've watched
Not
kung fu
really,
movies?
no.
So there's this director who does these kung fu movies. They're just insane. But there's a movie called Shaolin Soccer, and it's like it's not a great movie, but the idea is they combine kung fu with soccer.
Yeah.
And the guy kicks the ball like at light speed or whatever. It's pretty entertaining.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty good to check out though.
There was one with Tony Danza where he's like a field goal kicker and he wears a boot. It's like the field goal kicking phenomenon from Philadelphia or some ridiculous thing, some ridiculously awful while drinking your juice in the hood. That kind of.
So we can't end a sports movie topic without citing the greatest sports movie ever, and that is Air Bud.
Air Bud.
Golden retriever or receiver.
I liked
receiver.
The Sixth Man too, where the ghost is actually on the field.
Angels in the outfield.
Angels in the outfield. There's some really bad sports.
The Mighty
movies
Ducks
out
are
there.
pretty good actually.
I liked Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Ducks are
yeah,
good.
I'm not. There
are some bad sports movies.
There's some
Naked Gun is a sports movie.
Ace Ventura sports movie.
Reggie Jackson.
Let me think of what else we've got that maybe we didn't mention. So there's some great fighting movies that
Like boxing or just fighting?
like both boxing, fighting.
Kickboxer.
There's one with Tom Hardy, and I can't remember what it's called, where he's a UFC fighter.
He actually does that now.
Does he?
He's an actual MMA fighter.
He's a jacked dude. He's a big dude.
Yeah, and he like entered some tournament. I think it was maybe Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, and won.
Take over for a second. I'm gonna look this movie.
All right. Tom Hardy. So Tom Hardy, was it Bronson? Was that
It was not Bronson. That was when he was like in prison. It was a prison movie.
Was that about Charles Bronson or is that that's the action star from?
Oh, this is bothering me. It's like
Is it Action Bronson? No, that's a rapper.
Tom Hardy. It's weird how different he looks movie to movie.
He does, yeah.
All right, so it was. Oh man.
Was winning his Bane?
It was before Bane.
Yeah.
Before Mad Max.
Before Inception.
Before Dark Knight Rises. He has done a lot of
movies. He did that one where he played twins too, right? Like some sort of like.
I don't know that one.
Not like the Danny DeVito twins.
Oh God, it's not. I'm just gonna Google Tom Hardy UFC movie. Tom Hardy UFC Warrior. Did you ever see that?
No.
It's a great UFC movie. Boxing, obviously, we got all the Rocky ones, but there's one called Undisputed with Ving Rhames and Wesley Snipes. It's a prison movie supposedly based on when Tyson was in prison and fought like the toughest guy.
Was it $1 Billion Baby?
$1 Million Baby. Oh my God, that's one of those ones that you're talking about.
That's one
like,
you watch once.
You cannot watch
it again.
So I've been telling Melissa she needs to watch that for years. I don't think she likes Hilary Swank for some reason. But yeah, that one when she breaks her neck and then like
spoiler.
The movie just goes a completely different direction. Yeah. God, that was a serious trip to Downer Town.
That was definitely a downer. All right, so we talked about sports movies. What about sports video games?
So to me, I don't know if you remember this. Back in 2007, MLB 2K7, the last great 2K baseball game, it was like the best looking graphics game ever. You came over to play it. I had been on like a 41-hour binge of just playing it straight, where I would just play it for like hours and hours. Stop, eat, shower.
Yeah.
Maybe not even shower. Like eat, shit. Take feed the cats. Get right back to playing.
It was a healthy time in your life.
It was not a healthy time whatsoever in my life. That was about the unhealthiest time in my life. I remember there was I was so tired and so worn out that you actually beat me when we played. You hit 3 home runs with Delvin Young or 4 home runs with Delvin Young. I'll never forget that.
This backstory of you being tired. I came over and I beat you with Delvin Young.
Yeah.
Like Delvin Young owns you.
But we don't want to talk about the time I hit you with Jabba Chamberlain.
Definitely no hit me with
on
Chamberlain.
MLB The Show.
Yeah.
I was ranked as an MLB The Show player several years ago. I got to like the top 25. I got to, it was maybe 20, 23, 24, but I don't really play it online anymore. I mostly just play.
It's hard to play it online because of the timing.
Yeah,
Timing's weird.
there's like a little pause, and I don't love that. But I do like building franchises or whatever.
Yeah.
I just took the Rockies to 5 consecutive World Series championships.
You should work for the Rockies. They could use you.
Well, part of it is I turn on forced trades and I just go get everyone.
There you go.
Whatever.
I want Aaron Judge on the Rockies.
If you believe in the multiverse theory of of reality, there is a reality where I'm the GM of the Rockies and we just won 5 World Series.
5 World Series.
So,
remember the retro games like Tecmo Bowl?
Bo Jackson, unbelievable. There's a video where someone takes control of Bo Jackson and just runs the entire quarter
like 3
out
times.
and then just scores at the last second and that's it.
Yeah, they actually have there's a version available now. The kids playing it. My son actually plays it. It's called Retro Bowl.
Yeah.
It's basically Tecmo Bowl with like updated players.
They have Tecmo Bowl on the Nintendo Switch. Like there's this old like you can play Nintendo games. They don't have Tyson's Punch Out. It's like Mr. Dream or something.
Yeah. RBI Baseball. Did you play that?
I loved RBI
All the
Baseball.
Fat players.
But it was not my favorite baseball game of the video games.
Which
favorite
one
was Bad News Baseball.
Oh, okay.
So it was funny because if somebody made an error, they would literally fall down. There'd be little birds and stars going around their head for like 30 seconds. That was Baseball Stars, where you could actually sign contracts for players and stuff, and you could actually save a season or whatever.
You could do franchise.
I remember my brother had a franchise going, and I fucking deleted it, and he flushed my G.I. Joes down the toilet. It was just a little war we had.
That's pretty bad war there. a lot of casualties there.
There was some collateral damage in there.
Blades of Steel.
Oh man, yeah, with the hockey game, that was great.
Did you ever watch Swingers, the movie Swingers?
Oh, I love Swingers.
They had the scene in there where they're playing Blades of Steel.
They were playing NHL '94 actually.
I thought they were playing Blades of Steel.
Were not
like
playing...
they cut them and had blood or something.
No, it was NHL '94. So yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. I did play Blades of Steel on Game Boy a lot. That was fun. But yeah, NHL '94 also awesome. Swingers, Superman. I'm gonna make Gretzky's head bleed for Superman number 99 over here. My favorite is when Vince Vaughn is kicking his ass. They're like talking shit. He's like, "Are you gonna practice when I'm not here? Are you gonna practice when I do that whenever I'm playing Call of Duty with somebody? I'm like, will you practice this before we play again? Like,
do you remember the Power Pad?
I remember. Is that the one where you jump on like
the track and field? You can run.
Oh god, yeah, it worked horrible.
Like exercise.
Yeah, it worked horrible.
It was terrible.
The Power Glove also sucked.
Power Glove. The robot.
I don't remember the robot.
Like the gyroscope, whatever. So when I was a kid, we would go camping sometimes, and I went to a campsite, and they had one of those little community areas with the pool and stuff. And they had an arcade in there, and I remember there was this game in there, and it's basically a football game, but it was like cavemen. Mm-hmm. And you would punch them, and you throw the ball, and like they'd run with it and stuff. And I had to look it up because I couldn't remember what it's called. It's called Pigskin 621 AD.
There's a baseball version of that, like Super Baseball Simulator 5000 or something like that.
Yeah.
You got robots and all that.
But it's like I found out it was made by the same guys who made the basketball game Arch Rivals.
Yeah.
Where you could punch the players when they were. I liked it, but I also hated that game because it's like you could just like.
There was a football game where you could like give guys steroids or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember what it was called. I wish I could remember. I know there was one called Backbreaker that was super cool.
NBA Jam.
NBA Jam. He's on fire.
And then the NFL game had a similar one, Blitz. NFL Blitz.
NFL Blitz was cool.
They were all giant, massive and stuff.
I got one for you. NFL Quarterback Club. Did you ever play those games?
Was that like was John Elway on the cover of those?
Elway was on the cover one year. Yeah. Montana was on the cover one year.
Montana football.
Yeah. So the thing I loved about Quarterback Club is they had the quarterback competition which I would play was on Game Boy.
Yeah.
And like you got to throw at targets and like run like obstacle
You
courses.
had to take a Wonderlic test.
Yeah.
I failed it every time.
Yeah. So that was a classic. I wish they still made that.
So like it's interesting because like back then you had a lot of competition with sports games. Like
Yeah.
you had multiple football games, you had multiple baseball games, but now we're in the age of exclusivity.
Yeah.
Where NFL has licensed Madden only, NBA has only licensed 2K. I feel like that's really hurt the games.
That brings me to a story that I think is a good closing spot. So, best baseball game I ever played was MVP Baseball 05.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was a
Came
good one.
out, yeah, and it came out right around the same time.
I still have that one. I could.
I still have it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could build a stadium and owner mode and set prices and all this stuff. It had full minor leagues, just so fun. There was right around the time a war between 2K Sports and EA Sports over the football stuff. So Madden had become like the biggest football game in America by that point, but the 2K group was putting out quality games that I thought were better, and a lot of people
The
thought
NFL
were
2K
better.
games were good. Yeah.
Like the 2K4 game was amazing. So they decided they took a marketing swing, which I thought was genius. They said, we're going to release NFL 2K5 2 weeks before Madden, and we're going to make it $20. So while everybody's waiting for Madden to come out, I remember I was working at Champ Sporting Goods in the mall, and there was a video game store, the EB Games or whatever, right next door. So I was walking by and I kept seeing it like $20. I should try that. So I picked it up. It was amazing. And NFL 2K5 still, if you can watch, people still play it. Like they
do. There's a Reddit thread, like a forum for 2K5. I'm like, wow, this is.
I mean, it had ESPN presentation, highlights from other games with like announcing the greatest franchise mode ever. It was the best. And this pissed Madden off. And so Madden decided to sign, or Madden.
Not the guy,
yeah,
the
game.
game.
The game. The EA, it's pissed EA Sports off.
Yeah.
So they basically signed an exclusive deal with the NFL for like $70-80 million, where they're the only ones allowed to put out an NFL game. And since then, there hasn't been an NFL 2K.
No.
And
they've tried to do generic, but nobody wants that.
Right. That was the all pro football or whatever.
Yeah.
And in response, 2K signed Major League Baseball. And so for about...
And NBA.
So for about 7 or 8 years, there was no other baseball games. Now Sony, it was like I forget what the word that they used was. Sony makes their own baseball game, MLB The Show. And I guess it's like first party versus third party. So I guess it was a third party exclusive for 2K, that they're the only ones who could do baseball. So that was the end of the MVP baseball series. Actually, they had a college game. Nobody bought it.
Yeah.
It sucked. Actually, it was actually kind of good, but like nobody bought it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that ruined a decade of sports games for baseball and football fans. And basketball was allowed to compete with NBA Live for a while.
Yep.
NBA Live died out because 2K got so good. Like competition made that so good. So my thought is like we need to get more games, more companies doing competition. That's where I'm hopeful that AI will help out and like, AI can look at animations on a screen or like watch a game and animate in 3D the movements of the players. Right. And then it's just code. AI can help write the code. So all you really need is somebody who effectively knows how to use AI and can come up with, the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I get a little tired of like Madden just recycling and recycling and recycling.
Well, I like to play Madden. I get it every year, and I play it for a couple of weeks. But
you're part of the problem.
You always kick my ass, and then I fucking delete
because it's the same game since 04.
Yeah, and you know the game better. You know football better than I do. So like, I'll dominate. I'll take some lousy team to 5 Super Bowls in a row, and then I'll play Justin, and I'll lose by 40 points, and I'll delete the game off my hardware. And that's my routine every year.
Which button do I use? I forget.
And so like last week when you came over and waxed my ass on Madden, I went ahead and said, all right, well, I'm retiring that and claiming my storage space so that I can...
There you go. I'm glad I could free up some storage space for you.
All right, that feels like a good ending spot,
yep.
dudes. All right, we are the dudes.
Dudes.
That was a good one.